How's it going, guys? My name is LongBarrel and this is my official review of the GAMDIAS Hermes RGB Mechanical keyboard. I got a little bit of a cold, so please bear with me with my voice and my sinuses, but let's not waste any more time and jump straight into the review. So first things first, I was very impressed by this keyboard when I first opened it up. Not only that it looked very clean and aesthetic, it was also very sturdy in my hands. I mean, if you could press on it, there's not a lot of wiggle. There's none of that plastic squeakiness or anything like that, and there's not a lot of play if you're trying to bend it or whatever. So it's a very sturdy keyboard. At the same time, the colors are also very beautiful. They're very bright. There's a total of 4 color levels, so you can always switch between them. It is an RGB keyboard, so you do get around 16.8 million color combinations, so you can adjust it to whatever your liking is. I just like how they kept it very clean and very simplistic as a keyboard. They didn't go for any of those wings or any like aesthetic designs that a lot of companies like to go for. Instead, they just kept it a nice clean keyboard with a little bit of a palm rest and, you know, their GAMDIAS logo and the Hermes RGB logo at the top by the caps lock, numlock, and the gaming LEDs. My main concern when I got this keyboard was switching from a keyboard that was Cherry MX Black to GAMDIAS certified blue switches. I'm pretty sure they're the same as Cherry MX blue switches. I'm not really sure. I'm not a big expert on keyboards, but I did have a really easy transition into this keyboard. I thought it would be pretty hard going from a non-clicky keyboard to a clicky keyboard. It's a very comfortable keyboard to use. The layout of the keys are perfect for my hands. It's actually very fun to type. I loved it. And at the same time, it was very easy to use as all the keys are positioned in a very perfect place where all my fingers could reach each key with no problem. Let's talk about the switches. So this keyboard uses GAMDIAS certified blue switches. I'm not really sure who makes the switches themselves, but I'm assuming it's not that far from Cherry MX blue switches. The keys were very easy to press. There was actually minimal resistance on each one of them, which I'm pretty sure how all mechanical keyboards are supposed to be. It's very responsive. There's no delays. I've noticed absolutely no problems when using this keyboard while gaming or while typing, and everything about these switches just feel absolutely flawless. Now, being blue switches, this is a tactile switch, therefore there is an audible click sound at every keystroke, and at the same time when you bottom out, there is a little bit of a noise that kind of indicates that you hit the bottom of the key. Coming from a Cherry MX Black keyboard to a blue switch keyboard, one of the most fun things that I can do on this keyboard is type, and I try to type as much as I possibly can because I just love the clickiness of this keyboard. Typing is also one of the things that I was concerned about. I thought I was gonna have to get used to the layout of this keyboard and typing and stuff like that, but as soon as I picked it up, it was actually easier for me to type with this keyboard than my old keyboard. Now, when I type, I don't actually look at my keyboard. Therefore, I rely mostly on my muscle memory and my key layouts. So therefore, when I actually got on this keyboard, for some reason, my typing became a lot easier. I started noticing that I made less mistakes, and it was just a way better experience typing than it was with my other keyboard. Alright, so let's talk about the keys themselves. Aesthetically, they're very pleasing to my eye. I really love the font that they picked. It's very clean and very simple. At the same time, the feel of the keys, they're kind of like a matte black finish, but they're still a bit smoothed out, so it feels very nice on your fingers. There isn't a lot of wiggle on the keycaps themselves, which I'm not really sure what affects it on keyboards, but this keyboard in particular has barely any wiggle, so if you can like swipe your hand across the keyboard, it doesn't make as much noise as you would expect it to make. The keyboard has all of the original keys that you'd expect to find on any of the US keyboards, and at the same time they do have a lot of secondary functions behind them, such as switching your profiles, adjusting your volume, adjusting your brightness, and so on. Now, being an RGB keyboard, the lettering is of course translucent, so you can have an illuminated style keyboard. At the same time, the whole backplate is also backlit. I like how GAMDIAS left a lot of space on the keycaps themselves for people that like to put language stickers on their keyboards. For example, I'm going to use some Russian stickers later on, and I will have to apply them onto this keyboard, and there's a lot of space for those stickers. Alright, so let's talk about the programming of this keyboard. This keyboard has 6 total profiles, which you can obviously switch on the keyboard itself by using their added FN key. At the same time, they do have 2 programmable macro keys, which are G1 and G2, which you can obviously switch using the FN key. The software itself is not that great in my opinion, as I do think it's a little bit sloppy, and I really think they could redesign it a lot more. I haven't played around with their macro management software or anything like that, as I'm not a big fan of macros and all that good stuff anyways. But on the keyboard, they do have a on-the-go record switch, so you can, I guess, record your macros and the timing and stuff like that. I'm not really sure how that works, as like I said, I'm not a big fan of using macros in the first place. Now here's the fun part. You can obviously customize the RGB as to whatever the hell you want on this keyboard. You can have the keyboard do whatever you want. You can have a wave, you can have a wheel, you can have it static colors, you can have it through a neon colors. They do have preset settings, which I'll show you one by one right now. On the keyboard itself, they did choose to include 4 of the default pre-made options for the color combinations. One of them is being the wave, the other one is being the wheel, one is to change from static to movement, and the other one is kind of to go from left to right in a color switch. On the page up and page down buttons, using the FN key, you can obviously adjust the speed ranging from 0 to 10, which is kind of a cool option that they added that. My main concern is with the wave option. I'm not a big fan of how the color switches, you can actually see how they switch the color. It's sort of like a little bit of a low FPS issue if you're kind of looking at it. I'm not really sure how to describe it, but basically it's not as smooth as I would expect it to be. If you slow down the speed, you can especially see how each color gets transitioned through the LEDs, which in my opinion is not very good to look at if you're a fan of the wave feature. It's not a big deal for me, but I do feel like they could have taken a bit more time to make it as smooth as possible. But again, it doesn't matter. There are plenty of other options to choose from anyways. Now for the last bit of the software, they do also offer sound and timer options, which I'm guessing on every key press or something like that, or maybe even macros, you can assign your own sound recording for whenever you press the key, I'm assuming. I'm not a big fan of these settings as I don't use macros and stuff like that, but to those people that are concerned about that kind of stuff, I guess that might be good news for you. Now, as much as this is a good keyboard, it does have its cons. On their website, it's listed as $130 US, so it makes it about a mid-range keyboard. For this price, I do feel like they skimped out on some of the things on this keyboard, which I feel like for this price range, they should definitely have. So for the first concern, I do have that they don't have a adjustable or removable palm rest, meaning that whatever you got with this keyboard, which is a little bit of an extension for your palm rest, is what you get. If you have a longer hand or a shorter hand, you might find this palm rest just a little bit uncomfortable for you, and I feel like they could have went that next step and just made it a removable or an adjustable one. Another concern I have is the angle of the keyboard. The keyboard comes with 2 legs at the top of the keyboard, which do lift the keyboard off of the table, but I feel like they could have made the angle itself just a bit more customizable and adjustable to the user's liking. And for the last con, unfortunately the keyboard does not come with any additional USB ports or auxiliary ports, which I feel like for a keyboard at this price range, it should be sort of mandatory to have USB or auxiliary cords, especially now that the meta of the keyboard market is to start adding as many accessories as you possibly can on the keyboard, and definitely USB and auxiliary ports are one of the must to have on a keyboard these days. That pretty much concludes my review of the GAMDIAS Hermes RGB Mechanical keyboard. To say that I'm impressed would be an understatement, as this keyboard simply blew me away. I've been using this keyboard for a solid 2 weeks now, and I've been having nothing but an amazing time with it. And if you've been looking to pick up a new mechanical keyboard for yourself, then I really recommend buying this one, as it is a pretty good price range for an RGB keyboard, and I would say it's one of the best one for the value that you get. If you guys want to check out GAMDIAS and their products, their links will be in the description. I'm not sponsored by them or partnered with them. They simply sent me a keyboard for a fair review, and that is what I have brought to you guys. I want to thank you guys so much for watching. My name has been LongBarrel, and remember, be water, my friends.